All right, good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 32nd episode of our first run through the House of Light expansion for Book of Hours, playing as the archaeologists. Sorry, archaeologist. Only a single archaeologist in the house right now. I am recording this right now in the evening. There's just a very light snow that's falling outside the window. A couple of the houses have actually put up some Christmas lights. It's a bit cold, but I've made sure to wrap myself up in a blanket, and I have my second cup of tea while I am recording, so I hope that you are watching in very similar circumstances. But we are going to get on with the day. The snow is, of course, a little inappropriate for the game because we are going to be crossing over into summer, but right now I'm just going to be having dreams of summer. I almost forgot to try and keep a memory. Let's gooch that one away. All right, dream on a memory. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. Dreaming on a memory will preserve it past dawn, allowing you to keep it until the following day. There we go. Daybreak. Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. Now, I'm going to wait to see... We're going to have the full crossover to the next season before I make any firm decisions. All right, current affairs. What is happening in the world beyond Brandkrug? What visitors will the season bring? We do not have an incident, so we know we're going to be getting a new one. Oh, actually, with that in mind, I should have... Shame on me for not... Oh. I really messed that up. I actually really wanted to see what the sabotage and unveil responses would be. Well, that's fine because we're very likely going to invite the same people back next time. But that's on me for not looking a bit further. Okay, so we don't need to worry about Numa or anything like that. So the next, I guess the next question is, what do I want to try and do guest-wise? In terms of guests, we can have the barber. So that would be Rose, which I would normally want Fett for, or Moth. Now the Moth might be interesting here, so we'll just take a quick second and see what's available. I can actually open the Shadowed Stair more or less whenever I want. It's just not a high priority for me right now. Okay. So the Icy Bedroom may be an option. Alright, so let's take a minute here and see what's going on with the Icy Bedroom, because Moth can be a little bit of a tricky one. The Cloudy Day looks like it's something that should help, but I actually think I may want to use that as an input to something bigger, if I can. Okay, so if we bring in the barber, they start off with 2, so then we'd have the Tryst, which gives us 2. Yeah, I don't know why I'm actually making a big deal out of this. So if we add the Tryst, that's 2, which brings us up to 4. So then we bring in whatever memory. So that can bring us up to 6, at which point we would bring the shears for the 1, and that brings us up to 7. So then the question might be, well, what can I do? Is there a way that I can make this work with the clouds? Is there something that I could do with the barber that would get me that 1 extra Moth another way? Now, in some circumstances, I'd be willing to do something like find a drink which has the Moth aspect. The challenge is that Moth is a tough one. So like we have Lethe, which will give us, a nice big 4. But I don't need 4, I need 1. And as far as I can tell, there aren't a lot of drinks that only give a little bit of Moth. It's sort of a 1 everything or nothing. Although I guess the honey helps. But then I suppose the question is, do I really want to just use up a honey? Especially given that I'd be using an element of the soul to generate a memory already. So yeah, no, we're gonna hire the barber, and we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. The Sweet Bones. The Sweet Bones has been the public house in Brandkrug since Cromwell's time. Its history is notable, its beer is not. Guests looking for discreet employment or for discreet assistance congregate in the snug. Assistance from a traveling barber. In summer, the barber comes by to keep the villagers kempt. A shilling will buy his services. Barbers offer moth and a little rose. Alternatively, add a soul card to find any rarer guests who might be seeking employment. So while we take care of that, and keep in mind we will have a guest arrive in about 2 minutes where I'll also want to be using the talk verb with them. I could take this time to satisfy my guests and do all the cataloging, or I could try and read a text. So I got another satisfaction, and I completely forgot to save it for the Orchid Transfigurations. Then again, we could have had a Numa, so I suppose I could forgive myself for that. But yeah, Orchid Transfigurations is the one that I'm most interested in reading. Let's say... I'm not opposed to reading To a Pale Lady and a Prince of Wines, although I may not have a clear idea of what to level up when I read it, is the only problem. This is a similar argument for Ragged Crossroads, although at least with Ragged Crossroads, if I take a minute to look at my list, I think... Where is it? That one would actually go into Skolakosophy, so I may not know what I want to do with that for sure after all. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry to spend this time kind of going back and forth on these, but the only thing is that when I read this book, I'm going to get a memory, and I'll probably want to employ that memory. So it would help if I had a clear idea about what I was trying to achieve. Although, I guess I did say leveling up Sickle and Eclipse was an ambition. I think that clinches it for me. So we'll take Ava's Desk, we'll add the Tryst here, we will add Edicts Inviolable, that'll give us the moon that we need. I can master this mystery, enough moon to match Mystery Moon. I'll keep the Arab aside just in case I wind up getting some kind of satisfaction from the barber. So we'll catalog a Solar Period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Solar Gothic period, roughly between the 1000s and 1500s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. I also think it wouldn't hurt for me to get going on the inks. I know I'm going to want to make more of those when the time comes. I feel like I'm making a mistake here. That was probably the Edicts Inviolable that I was using. Yep. I will wait on that then. Was it though? I still think it's better to wait. And I think I will try cataloging a Baronial Period book as well. Catalog a Curia Period book. This book was probably written around the time of... Sorry, not Baronial, Curia. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Curia period, roughly the 1700s to 1800s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. So we'll keep the core, the Arab, and the health aside. If I need, I can sort of make a few different... I can make a few different ingredients. I mean, I might just invite the same group of guests. Although it would be nice if I had more elements of the soul that were in line with my objectives. The barber's assistants. The itinerant barbers of the South Country will keep you clean and kempt, make sure you don't miss out on any news or gossip, and arrange matters so you aren't too troubled by vermin. Snip, snip. Alright, fixing and mending. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. And we will, not consider, we will have a chat with our friend the barber with Tryst. Secret sorrows may join our strengths, boosts moth and moon. Now one thing I didn't account for was generating a moth memory. I could use the occult scrap. Yeah, okay. It's a little wasteful here, but I think I'm going to use the occult scrap and then just add Father Stanislav's card in this case. One of the main reasons for that is it just keeps me going in terms of my schedule. I don't want to have too much of a delay in terms of getting the barber where I need them to be and trying to get a couple memories. Okay. It'll also be interesting to see what books I get. Okay, The Other Eye of the Serpent, in which the heresiarch Signifer attempts to resolve certain mysteries of lightning. I'm trying to remember if I've read this one or not. And a true and complete accounting of the Asclepian mysteries of the roots of the house. So this one, we already have weaving and not working, but it is within my ability to read this one. I think the better call for me is to use the core Arab or health to generate, generate things that I can use. Alternatively, I should probably check out these packages. I think, as before, I'm going to... Well, okay, there's actually two things that I can do. So one, I can use the extra water that I have already to restore a metal, and then that will just mean that I get through my collection a bit faster. So a quick nap in a warm bed with something comforting to drink while the winds chase the clouds and the clouds chase the sun. The rest is going to depend on how the rest of the day goes in terms of what books, memories, and... challenges I run into. What comes, neither of us knows yet, but we will. So let's have a chat about the occult scrap. Exalt with a memory. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. So the last improvement will be the Shears of the Sisterhood, and while we do that, let's add our dear friend... Note Father Stanislav's address for what you might call an occult correspondence. I may not necessarily invite them to the next salon, but I will at least have them in the list. But will they come when you do call for them? And I usually like to note the addresses for everyone, so... Priory de Capitan Moriband. To make this invitation to Father Stanislav sufficiently enticing, you will need at least 3 nectar from skills, memories, inks, or anything else. I think drums and dances would be the answer for that one, but I would probably need... I would either need to employ my health, which I'd be reluctant to do, or I would need a, I think, Ugal for an ink. Alright, let's see what we draw. I'm kind of eager to see this one. I am actually also eager to get Hokebald here. Developments in the world beyond Brandkrug. Drawing a new incident. Zachary Wakefield. And this is the affair of the Endless Guest. I think this one is interesting because it deals with one of the other Bureau members from Cultist Simulator. Memories don't last long outside books, but it's made a difference for the day. So, let's see what we're dealing with. First of all, I can lend my assistants something to help, increasing their abilities. You'll still be able to use the tool. And as I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So we'll just keep restoring the shaft. Ideally, we'll use the shaft at the end of the day, maybe to catalog a book or something. So, we have got The Affair of the Endless Guest. An inhabitation of worms is never to be taken lightly. In this case, worms have chosen to inhabit one Spencer Hobson on assignment by the Bureau in Krakow. Hobson has remained unusually articulate for an inhabitee, and apparently he considers the worms his guest. Visitors with an interest in Knock or Winter mysteries will want to talk about this. Mr. Zachary Wakefield, marksman, detective, renegade. He has always been a quiet man, but since he left the Suppression Bureau, he has grown even quieter and terribly still, except for his fingers and for his eyes, always in restless motion. Okay, so we would only need a 3 or a 4 for the winter, but let me make sure that I have that. So yeah, Lady Ava's repose will do the trick. The question here is when I do that. What I'll want to do in this case is I'll want to talk to Wakefield about the I'll want to talk to him about the affair first, get him in my Rolodex, as it were, and then invite him back for Kilisimi. I'm also going to make a note that he would prefer winter food and drink. We get that from here. Okay. So I have an idea in terms of how I'd like to interact with him. The question is, do I do that later in the day, or do we do it now and get it out of the way? I think I'm slightly more inclined to talk to the barber for a while, mostly just because I have an outside chance of being able to read the Orchid Transfigurations. This tool has boosted their aspects appropriately. I could encourage my assistant, work with them for a little while, exalt them, or I could just listen to whatever they might have to say. A Pale Lady and a Prince of Wines, an anonymous biography of Ava DeWolf, last of the DeWolfs, focused rather salaciously on her personal troubles and intrigues. Ava DeWolf is engaged to one Abraham Wheelock, but he leaves her at the altar. Furious and humiliated, she returns to Brankrug and is not seen in London again. 3 days after her departure, Abraham Wheelock's body is washed up near Gravesend. His face is so badly pecked by birds that he is only identified by his belongings. These include a waxed pouch containing a letter addressed to Wheelock, whose contents seem to show he is a spy in the pay of the Austrians. Subsequent investigations suggest that the letter is a forgery, but the manner remains obscure. Lord Franklin Bancroft, sometimes called the Prince of Wines, begins a series of visits to Brankrug House. His relationship with Ava becomes a source of scandal. Ava is by now 49, but rumors persist for years of a DeWolf Bancroft heir. Ava's biographer claims that before her drowning death, her child by Bancroft was adopted by her friends the Southies, that the child became the sister of the later poet laureate Robert Southey. No real evidence is provided in support of this claim. All right, so another salt. And our Sea Stories lesson, which I already said we were going to employ towards leveling up Sickle and Eclipse. So I could use the Arab here. I think instead I'm just going to say we'll sacrifice the ink. The ink was a nice to have, but not essential. I am, however, going to double check. Yes, this was the one that would get me the cat wing. So, the other question would be, I can't keep the clouds. I couldn't keep the salt. I think I'll use the salt. I'm just trying to think if there's a little way for me to get more than one thing done today. So I can definitely see myself leveling up Sickle and Eclipse higher than 2. And again, this is just because it'll be the sort of thing that can help me get rid of a corruption. There's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. This will increase its aspects, which will help with crafting and make it suitable for higher branches in the Tree of Wisdoms. I deserved a little quiet time. Now we'll use the metal right away. I don't think I'll be able, to renew another element of the soul in a productive way for today, so I'll only do that once. We can grab another Solar Period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Solar Gothic period, roughly between the 1000s and 1500s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. Better now. I've learned something, or perhaps just remembered it. I want to just double check something here. I was talking about satisfaction before. I just want to make sure that I haven't ruled out. If I add the spice scales, there we go. I can master this mystery, enough Grail to match Mystery Grail. So this actually gives me a reason to bring back the Tryst, so we're going to pour some water for that. Serve appropriately. Pour out. Poured out. So it'll be a little late, but I think we should be able to make this work. A quick nap in a warm bed with something comforting to drink while the winds chase the clouds and the clouds chase the sun. So the idea here is that I should be able to level up... Sorry, I should be able to acquire the skill, and then I should be able to level it up with, at minimum, clouds. I may be able to use something else. Skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. Salt and silver, balance, necessity, and rebuke. Now I have an idea of this book's nature and its contents. Callicite Supplications. Now that's one that we know we can read. In fact, if we wind up with a satisfaction, we might hold on to the satisfaction overnight. And I also think we're at a point here where I don't know if there's a whole lot that I need from the barber right now. So I'm not going to toss him out quite yet. We'll see what happens with Wakefield and the Affair of the Endless Guest, but I'm at a point now where I got a gossip which allowed me to read the book. In fact, the funny thing is I may actually have... Yeah, so I could have used the gossip anyway. But that's fine. We've got what we wanted, so... Librarian, I can see you. If there's an incident card active, you can discuss it or just leave the slot empty and offer a consultation. On the Endless Guests, Hobson. He was my friend. Now he might be my friend's. I have to know what to do. Try a book with as much Mystery Knock or Mystery Winter as their matching interest. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even think that Knock would be an option here, but of course he's Knock and Winter. So we may actually wind up directing his response. So the Winter, I imagine, Winter speaks to endings, and so this may not end well for Hobson. On the other hand, I'm also thinking a little bit in terms of Knock and the worms. So I'm going to see what Hobson's response is in each of these cases. There's always out, and there's always down. So down it is then. Goodbye, librarian. And then advice on containment. Out it is then. Goodbye, librarian. I think we'll go for the Knock. I was actually thinking, when I saw that Knock was an option, I was going to go for that anyway. Now, I should probably make some decisions as far as the core and the health. We have quite a bit in terms of the vegetables already. If I would like to do some cooking, and there's actually an argument for me to do that now, because this would allow me to sort of decide what I want to... this would get me ready to do the salon and such. Okay, maybe here's the better way to think of it. I don't have sea holly yet, and so I think there is some value in having at least one of the plants. So gather the spiny fluorescences of the sea holly. And I think we will make the orange jumble in this case. Especially because orange jumble can be used in other contexts. And then this one we need spices and savors because I've already used the spice scales. Make orange jumble, a dish with forge, grail, heart, and lantern. So this will satisfy... sorry, Corso is great. So yeah, this will satisfy Corso, Serena... Sorry, Serena, Madame Bichet, Arthur, Corso, Schaller. Actually, the only person it doesn't really help would be Fraser and Zachary. Okay, a dish with forge, grail, heart, and lantern. And we should be able to restore the shaft and then use it for something. I think we'll catalog a book in that case. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. It is summer. I am sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. I think restoring the tryst was the right call here. Okay, we've got Zachary's card. Use this at a desk with your writing case to make a note of the address. Now, I didn't quite think things through, so I added Schaller's card already, which means I've got the occult scrap. So if I add Zachary, I potentially waste the occult scrap. But I do want to add Zachary because I want the access to Kilisimi. That will help me with these three. So 2 wombs, 1 heart, the berry book, and 1,000 threads. Although I suppose the one thing I can say out of these, maybe... Okay, yes, we could read 2 wombs, 1 heart. That gets me stitching and binding, which I don't think we have yet. So, okay. There is a good argument for me to bring Zachary sooner rather than later. I deserved a little quiet time. Alright, so this is the get on with it sound. I could encourage my assistant, work with them for a little while, exalt them, or I could just listen to whatever they might have to say. So I'll try and do 2 conversations with the barber before we finish. Here's the orange jumble. I think we'll just host it in the garden again. I'm not limited to the garden. There are a couple of other places that I can host. So we have the Hall of Division. I could do a smaller one in the Gulskrai Logia. Do I have the refectory yet? I don't think I do. Yeah, it's right there. So actually I have fewer locations than I thought. But I don't know. I like the idea of using... I like using the outside places where I have the option available. It's just one of those things. I think I might have said this in an episode before, but if you think about the different recipes for the food, there's the efficient ways. So I think, like, for instance, I'm trying to remember, there was a I think you can do like a milk only salon. It was something silly. It was, I'm pretty sure it was milk. Anyways, but then there's also ones where, you know, it takes more. So for instance, you could do the marinated roast beef or the roast beef. And if you're going for certain aspects, there's no reason for you to do the marinated roast beef. You use up more items, and as a consequence, you use more elements of the soul. But the thing is that that's not really the reason you do anything in this game. You do things in this game because they're interesting. And so for better or worse, I find some options more interesting than others. And as a result, I I bear the stamp of my curiosity, I suppose. All right, let's catalog another Curia period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Curia period, roughly 1700s to 1800s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. And here we go, The Orchid Transfigurations, A Birth, the second volume of a compilation of quasi-Rosicrucian allegories, supposedly by Robert Flood. This is in the original Latin. Flood, or pseudo-Flood, suggests alignments between the alchemical tradition of Rubidoux and the older Grail traditions through the Pine Knight's quest for the Cinnabar Cup. Seek the cup in the birthing bed, the Pine Knight is told. The midwife at the birthing bed, to his amazement, is the Mountain Mother. In a fit of awe, he both gelds and flays himself. The vigilant storm bursts joyfully from the remains. All right. So, there's a satisfaction. This is good because I have been wanting a way of generating that for a while. I think we'll put that... This is a pretty big shelf to put satisfaction on. But then pretty much most of the stuff that I have is only one or two books. So and resurgences and emergences. So we know what we're doing with that. We'll say use this listen to acquire a new skill. And what I'm going to do here, as tempting as it is to keep the storm, I'm actually going to keep the memory satisfaction, because if with this is a tough one. Yeah, no, with the memory satisfaction we can read Callicite Supplications, and then it's not that hard for us to get the storm or the solace back. And we'll use that for 2 wounds, 1 heart when I'm able to bring Zachary back. But we're going to need to find a use for the occult scrap before I do that. There's lots of things I can do with the occult scrap. I'm not too worried about being able to do that, but I just want to be a little thoughtful in terms of how I approach things. So this also invites the question, what do I think I'm going to do with the barber if I've already got the memory that I'm keeping overnight? So let's open up the icy bedroom. A thick and freezing murk, like a clinging black mist, roils at the floor level. At floor level. Not theoplasma exactly, the ragged remnants of some chilly wood thing, or a good old-fashioned ghost decayed to half-elemental energies. Some local will probably know. All right, and on that note, I think I'm going to leave it for today. I know there's not that much time left in the day, but I am conscious of the fact that my timer for these episodes is actually laundry. So I'm going to wrap it up here. We'll get the last little details done at the beginning of the next episode. And then I think we've got a pretty clear set of marching orders in terms of how I'm going to do the next couple of days. We've got resurgences and emergences that we'll bring up to level 2. We'll acquire Tridesma Hyra and bring that up to level 2. And then we're going to see if we can find a way of bringing Zachary Wakefield into the fold. I mean, if I have to wipe out the occult scrap, I'll do it, because having the Kilisimi is just already helpful. Like, simply having the language to open up another branch is already helpful and give me another element of the soul. But I still don't need to rush so much that it's a like today sort of a task. But anyways, all of that will be handled in an upcoming episode. Until then, take care.